What is up, bros? Josh here, and today's video is all about the currently work in progress USS Somers. Now, this is a tier 10 USN destroyer, so one we're going to be comparing it to all video is the gearing, and out of the current batch of work in progress ships we had, this is probably my favorite of all of them. It's so much fun. However, throughout this video, we'll talk about the stats, show some gameplay, and also give my thoughts on what will happen to the ship before it goes live. Now, as always, one of the main things I want to talk about, the elephant in the room, I have no idea how this ship will be available. Obviously, three main things come to mind for this style of ship. It seems to be a premium tier 10, so free XP, steel, or coal. I do not know how this will be available. Just want to clear that up. As soon as I do, or Wargaming posts a dev blog, I'll obviously post on this or update this video, but through this version, we just don't know how it will be available. Let's dive into the stats, though. As for a tier 10 destroyer, we will be comparing this to the gearing the most. Obviously, the tier 10 USN destroyer, that's for part of the tech tree, the gearing, and they play semi-similar, and you'll see a lot of things that are similar yet different. However, the Somers is something that will be more focused on torps, and the gearing is more of that hybrid. This is getting nicknamed the USS Shimakaze because it has such good torpedoes. Now, hit points 200 or 20,800 life. Now, obviously, let's dive into the captain build here, and this is something that I think I might even make a second video on a different captain build and let you guys know. But I'm going priority target, last stand, survivability expert, concealment expert, radio location, very basic, whatever on almost everything. However, I am taking torpedo armament expertise, and this is going to be almost identical to my gearing, except for my gearing I take BFT. But torpedo armament expertise here for those faster reloads. Again, this is more torp focused. And then in adrenaline rush, so that'll be the last 19-point captain. So just throughout, this 10% will affect the torp reload, just so when we look at those values. But HP is 20,800, comparing that to the gearing with also survivability expert, a tad under, but you have to give up something because you have this offensive threat of having more torpedoes. The guns, however, on this is something that you will definitely see a difference in. And when people ask, does it play like the gearing gun-wise? Well, the gearing's guns, again, I have a little bit set up at 3.4 kilometers, or 3.4 seconds on the reload. These things are going to fire much faster. Again, I have even superintended on this. Okay, this is a different captain I have set up here, but BFT is normally what I take on my gearing. But the guns are going to shoot slower. The Somers is more focused on torpedoes and has a slower reload of 5 seconds. If you want a very comparable ship of the reload, when people ask me how the reload felt, it feels like post nerf Yu Yang, where you're used to firing and you're still waiting for it to reload, if that makes any sense. So if you're playing the Somers after the gearing will obviously fire more often, has a faster reload. The Somers a tad slower, but still extremely effective. The guns are going to feel almost identical for the both the velocity as well as range. Everything's going to feel pretty similar. However, it just does have a slower reload overall of over a second in most situations. But the thing that is going to make this ship stand out is its insane ability to just torp everything and extremely fast. Now, we have that torpedo armament, which is going to extend or going to speed up the reload. We also run for the modules here. We'll just go over them really fast. We are running the torpedo tube modification 3, so we're really pumping those torpedoes out as fast as possible. We are doing concealment, obviously, steering gears, aiming system, propulsion, and also main armament mod 1, but we get that reload down to 82 seconds. 82 seconds. Let's compare that to the gearing. Obviously, it doesn't have the commander skill to speed that up. This is 94, but only 2 sets of 5 at 10.5. Well, these are even the other ones. Let's switch over to the 16.5s really quick and switch those out. So 121 seconds at 16.5, 66 knots with 17,900 on that with 1.4 kilometer detection. That's the gearing. 2 sets of 5 every basically 2 minutes. The Somers, we're going to go 3 sets of 4 every 82 seconds of identical torps. That's pretty nuts. That's why this thing's being called the USS Shimakaze. So lots and lots of torps. Again, I'll probably make a video. I'm probably going to try out a new captain, very similar, but I'm going to try out the torpedo acceleration, where it will get it down to 13.2 kilometers, but they will be faster. So that'll get up to 71 knots. Pretty nasty with 82-second reload on those torps. So this is pretty insane. However, what will we see this final ship as? I'm not sure, but this is probably what we'll see a change to. AA, this is one of the biggest changes too. AA, it's non-existent. 6 rating, comparing that to the gearing. Yeah, there's no AA on this ship. This is purely a torpedo boat. So if planes are above you, you can yell at them, you can scream at them, you can throw rocks. It's basically all your AA is going to do. However, you're not really going to be shooting down any planes. So turn that AA off, stay stealthy, good luck, have fun. Maximum speed, again, I think I have, oh, I don't have the speed like, never mind. Almost 39 knots, pretty quick, comparing that to the gearing. Again, a lot of this ship is going to feel pretty comparable. A little bit faster than gearing, which is nice. Obviously, you don't have as good a gun, so it is kind of expected. And then detectability, 5.8. Actually quite low for this tier. You get a bit of an advantage. This is with the legendary module, so it's going to be higher than that, obviously. But 5.8 as a standard for this type of ship makes you very, very comparable. Again, more focused on being a torpedo boat. Let's dive into some gameplay and show what this ship is capable of by holding a flank all by itself. So here we are in game with the Somers, and man, I really enjoy this ship. This is even a pretty decent game, but I feel like I still haven't really gotten the whole potential of this ship. You feel like you have complete control over a map. It just depends a little bit on the RNG if you're getting those torp hits. You'll see this first part of the game where it is, I'm not quite getting the torp hits, and this could have easily been, if I was a tad on or just a little bit there, or hydros wouldn't have been there, I would have probably had, like, no joke, a 300,000 damage game. The potential of this ship compared to, honestly, really any other tier 10 destroyer, even the Shimakaze torp wise, because the reload is so quick, is higher than, I think the potential is higher than anything. That's the thing. That's the whole thing about the Shimakaze, is it brings a super high potential damage. It just depends on if your torps are going to hit. Now, one of the things I will say, though, is the sets of 4 do have kind of a weird pattern, it seems like, that they are going to spread out a little bit more. I don't know if that was just a placebo thing or I was missing some, but it seemed like there was some perfect gaps when it came to it. So I'd say maybe a bit of a downside there, but you're still sending out, as you see, we already have 50 seconds left. You can actually get the next set of torps. It kind of reminds me of things like The Sims, where you can send out the next set of torps before those ones, or the USS Black. You can send out a second set of torps before those first ones hit, potentially. And one thing I really do like is it is the 16.5. Now, for the gearing to get a comparable torp reload on this, it has to switch to the 10.5s. And the one thing I love even about the gearing's 16.5 kilometer torps is that they have, in my opinion, that effective range of 12 to 14 kilometers, which, if you can with destroyers hit that, I feel like that's really prime for high tiers. There's a lot of radar, there's a lot of sonar, there's a lot of things that are going to spot your torps, obviously spreading out of the torps. That 12 to 14 I feel like is such a prime real estate, especially for having torps like this that are still 66 knots and relatively stealthy. So getting those torps I found like to be a very good thing. And there was even a couple, as you see, I even held on to my torps. I could have launched them a tad sooner. But just being able to kind of control an area, as this whole side is, and you're going to start seeing everyone's kind of pointed in, so we're going to kind of miss a bunch of torps, but you're going to be sending so much damage in a direction, you can really kind of hold them down on top of just being stealthy. 5.8 kilometers, you can be a big risk to things, as well as having decent guns. Obviously, we're not going to be a double cab div, but we do have the potential of potentially gunning down one if they're half-life, or we can still defend ourselves. Then, since the Shima has been buffed as well, with its main batteries being buffed, you're not like a worthless gun destroyer, as you would see. I wouldn't say quite worthless, but ships that tend to be focused on torps don't quite have the balance of having good torps and having guns to kind of really defend themselves. It's either or. This one, however, still has good guns to defend itself, as well as torps, which I really enjoy. I've always been a fan of the quote-unquote hybrid DDs, so German destroyers, USN DDs, stuff like that, where you have a lot of tools and a lot of threats you can kind of pump out, and a lot of pressure you can pump out, without really having much of a weakness. However, one of the weaknesses is really kind of with every destroyer is your weakness is going to be CVs. They're obviously going to spot you. You don't have much A to defend yourself, but really there's so few DDs that really can defend themselves. So I really just feel like that's a tough thing to say, man, this is a weakness of this. look at this weakness of not being able to shoot down planes. You can almost put that in even AA spec destroyers. Yeah, Grozavoid can shoot down planes. Yeah, Gearing AA spec can shoot down some planes, but it's just not going to be a consistent thing. So me saying like, oh, it's weak against planes, therefore that's the downside of the ship, just doesn't really seem worth it to me even really saying it. So, but this, I feel like it's just solid. Yeah, you'll lose a fight to a Gearing. You'll probably lose a fight to a Grozavoid, a Daring, a gunfight that is. However, if they aren't hunting you down and they aren't going out and killing you, you are such a threat. Now, are you a Sashio level threat? I wouldn't quite say that, because they're absolutely nasty with that torpedo booster. But at least you can hit cruisers and you can be effective on DDs, and especially if a DD fails and smokes up and you just send 12 torps their way, that's a lot of potential damage. So even as you saw early, I threw out torps as soon as the reload was up. Again, 82 seconds. You can basically get to a cap at that point. So throwing in that first set of torps and then a second set of torps, very, very effective. So really kind of enjoying the ability to control an area. And honestly, these guys can't get going too fast, because I'm just going to be sending out just over a minute, every minute 20. 12 more torps are going to be going out their way. So you have the ability. People don't like taking damage in this game, so this ship having the ability to do this is pretty dang powerful. It really is. Things I could see them changing on this, obviously torp reload. I think that's what they're going to end up doing. Something I could even see is, and I've talked about with a couple other CCs, is the trade-off of just leaving this torp reload, but making it kind of like how the Sims has torps, where the Sims has these torps that reload very quick, but they don't hit extremely hard. So dropping down the damage is a possibility. So maybe that's something we'll see, dropping down damage, leaving torp reload as it is, or just affecting the torp reload. 82 seconds on this is crazy. Again, I think I will make a second video on this destroyer, because one, I'm having so much fun playing it. Usually what I do is when we're in this work in progress phase, I kind of test the ship, get a good video, and then play it a little bit more, but not too much, because I just don't think this is going to be the final version. So I do want to see the potential of this destroyer, and I think that torp acceleration could be like kind of to show the eliteness of this DD. It could be extremely, extremely strong, and I would even say probably a bit overpowered. But overall, I'd never felt really scared of anything. Obviously, I have a double Caba div that's kind of heading my way, but as I said, I haven't really felt the full potential of this DD. As you see, I've kind of, only got one torp hit so far, 8 minutes into the game. However, I'm kind of holding down this whole side. As you see, the mini-map, a lot of our ships were stuck in C. The other two destroyers on our team are on the I and J line, but we're just able to hold off all of these and give our team enough time to rotate back. So as well as getting chased down by double Caba. But as you see, look at that mini map. Not a ship higher than the F line right now, besides me and the Somers. I wouldn't feel really as comfortable in this ship as I would in the Gearing even. Shimakaze, that's another question. That's another situation. I feel like the Shimakaze handles this kind of stuff quite well, but I even feel a bit more comfortable, or I would feel a bit more comfortable in this ship than I would the Shima, because of its ability to just kind of do some work. And there we go. Once you finally get those broadsides and everything's not moving straight towards me, I can finally start getting some torp hits. But again, just the damage output on this thing is crazy, as well as keeping pressure up on these Cabas, making them turn in and out, and just kind of lobbing torps into the general area, as well as just spotting a ton of ships. This thing is fantastic at that. As you see, those 16-kilometer torps, and that's a perfect example of the kind of things you give up when taking the Gearing with the 10.5-kilometer torps. That right there was damage I couldn't do. That second row, that effective range of 12 to 14 kilometers outside of radar range, but still far enough away to potentially even hit dark ships that aren't spotted. This is why this is potentially so strong. Staying out of radar range, but still pumping out lots and lots of damage. This thing, though, tons of fun. Still knocking out, still just forcing repairs, forcing these guys to turn, making them Missouri go broadside. keeping these DDs at bay a little bit. And I'm trying, one thing I try to do here is try to get Khabarovs to push in towards me. That's what I was trying to 200 IQ him a little bit. But as you see, the guns still hit hard. They're basically gearing guns that just take a bit longer to reload. So still nothing to, you know, it's still very respectable and can still do lots of damage. One thing I would just do is you will probably still win a fight full life gearing versus full life Somers. Gearing will probably win that, guns only. Obviously, faster reload, more life. But this is extremely, extremely effective and can still do a great job. As you see, we're just continuing to pump out damage and really kind of holding down an entire side. Our team's starting to rotate back, so we have that ability. But as you see, our journey has gone from going beeline to A, pumping out a ton of torps, rotating, and just kind of holding while my team can hopefully win this down, as they're now starting to get into the fight of the main side, and we can hopefully start getting some more damage on these guys sailing broad. So yeah, with the setup I have right now on this ship, there is great potential just as is. I talked about potentially growing like a BFT setup, but I think you just want to go full torps. So torp reload, the 10% captain skill, potentially torp acceleration. That 13 kilometers is still probably enough. And so speccing into the guns, I don't feel like that's quite worth it. I don't feel like that's quite needed. I always say use modules and use captain skills to really start to really buff what the ship is good at, and this is good at launching torps, so you might as well just do that and be very effective doing that. There's no reason to kind of force a ship to do something else. Make what it does really well and make it even better. That's what I always say with modules and torps, or modules and captain skills. So speccing into guns, not really needed. Does it need inertia fuse? No. A lot of people always ask that. Does the ship need inertia fuse? Now see, right here is a good example of, obviously I'm not going to be able to take on an entire cab by myself, but I would probably take that cab on at 10k. If I had twice the life, he's gonna be able to do probably twice the damage as me. But yeah, anyways, probably take that on, especially when he's at 9k. But the double cab at div. Now, yes, I did give my cab a smoke, but they were gonna push it, so tried to do 200 IQ, ended up kind of backfiring a little bit, but we traded a NorCal for some decent damage on these DDs. And one of the most important thing is it kind of gave me a bit of breathing room when it came to these Khabarovs. So, and don't worry, we'll get our revenge in the end. Don't you worry. But still, right here too, you could do guns on one thing, torps on the other. That 16.5 kilometer range gives you a lot of freedom, as I'm still continuing to pump in damage towards those, and you'll see me continue to pump in damage from a long range away and start getting those torp hits. With everything kind of running, they're all kind of in one square, one or two squares, and really a lot of just potential damage. That's what this ship does. There's so much potential damage when it comes to this destroyer, but because of how many torps you can throw out. Now, these torps don't hit IJN level hard. They're not going to be hitting for 20k, but they are really good, and there's so many of them. So I like the idea of this ship a lot. A more torp focused USN ship. It's kind of that bridge, that gateway drug from IJN to USN. I feel like it does a good job at really bridging that gap, and could be a lot of fun for a lot of people. However, one thing that also comes up with ships like this is when you kind of make a good mix of ship here is it doesn't make something like the Shimakaze obsolete. Now, that's something that we've seen a lot in this game, is a thing called power creep. Now, power creep is something that over time a ship continues to get worse and worse and worse. As we saw a bunch of stuff, the Pan-Asian destroyers came out and they were basically better torp destroyers than IGN. They were nerfed. We had other situations where the gearing got a legendary module, so it got stealthier than the Shima, or at the same level as the Shima. So power creep, is that a thing with this? Yeah, and that's why I feel like they need to give the identity of torps still, the spamming of high damage torps still to IJN. And if they don't, I feel like there could be a bit of a stronger power creep there. So that's why I feel like, one, I feel like they have the perfect example of what the ship kind of is with the Sims, and that's what I kind of hope they do. Maybe leave the torp spam where it is, but at the same time just lower the damage. Pumping out a ton of torps isn't the worst thing in the world, but if you do lower the damage, they aren't quite as effective as other torps, if you get what I mean. So, like, if you take a set of Sims torps, you're like, okay, they all hit for 4,000 or 5,000 damage. Yes, I might flood, which is still the threat. I think torps should have that ability. And I told you we would get revenge on these Cabas. I told you we would get revenge. So, nothing but a Caba sailing broadside right into them. Bingo bango. Again, the gearing really wouldn't have been able to do that because that was our third set right there. And don't worry, we'll still get more revenge. Just you wait. But I could see them toning down damage. I think that's the best way to affect it. I'm fine with a spammy range, but if it's only doing a little bit of damage with a chance of flood, I think that's a lot easier sell for a lot of people instead of just spamming long range torps that hurt a lot. If you if you tone down the reload, which I think they might do as well, if you tone it down too much, you kind of lose the identity of this ship. Yeah, it has 3 sets, but then you start going, why bring it instead of the gearing? So that's a bit of a bummer. So there's potential to make something very unique, but they do have to be very aware of what they are doing and potentially what they are replacing and potentially what they're power creeping, which is a big problem that's kind of happening over wargaming. And I told you we would get our revenge again. I told you and you didn't listen. But still, I love it. I love this ship. It's so much fun to play. We play them all live on twitch.tv/mejash. Come check us out there. I'll put a link down below as always. And out of this entire set of ships, by far my favorite. Still has good guns, amazing torps, and just a blast to play. I like this idea, but there are some worries for me. Again, obsolete, making other ships obsolete, that this is their thing, and really just, you know, it's obviously a tad too strong. They definitely need to hit the torps. I feel like trading off slow reload on the guns, but having torps to make up for it is a cool idea. But still, some things I'm a little bit worried about. But overall, 141,000. Again, I will probably make a second video on the torp acceleration build, see how that is, to see if those 13.2 kilometers, but having 71 knot speed will work. I'll probably make a second video on this, and we'll be doing that all live on stream, so that should be fun. And I will probably make a second video on that. I think that'll really show the full potential. But again, we had 141k. We didn't really do too much. We didn't really put our ship in that much of a threat. And this thing has so much potential to just be an absolute king of the sea at tier 10. Really, the ship could be really, really, really good. So, but overall, decent damage. 4 kills, torp hits, gun hits, and on top of that, making a decent amount of credits, which is awesome, and top of the team and really enjoying it. But still, work in progress. Their stats are subject to change, so we'll see, and I'll keep you guys updated on all of those changes. But anyways, guys, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. The Tier 10 USN Destroyer, the Somers, USS Somers, the USS Shimakaze, if you want to call it. But that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.